Hello and welcome to Palace Intrigue. I am your host, Mark Francis. On the weekend, we're continuing our recaps of Season 5 of The Crown. You'll find recaps of episodes 1 through 4 below in the feed. Spoilers ahead for Season 5 and 6. Season 5 gets into the very colourful scandal known as Tampon Gate. Olivia Williams, who plays Camilla, is standing by the Crown's depiction of Tampon Gate, telling the Times that the show's reimagined conversation between her character and the then Prince Charles and Camilla is the absolute best scene. She added, "I would like to make it illegal for anyone to comment upon the inclusion of this conversation who doesn't actually watch the episode. If you decide because your principles are so high that you're not going to watch the episode and then you choose to comment, your opinion is of no value. What this episode does is an extraordinary piece of filmmaking." People reminds us that Tampon Gate occurred in January 1993, when a real-life phone conversation between Charles and Camilla was leaked to the Sunday Mirror. During the 6-minute chat, Charles told Camilla that he wanted to live inside her trousers and then joked that he could be reincarnated as a Tampax tampon. Amid giggles, Camilla, who was married to Andrew Parker Bowles at the time, later added that she desperately yearned for him too. Dominic West, who plays Prince Charles, said, "I remember thinking it was something so sordid and deeply embarrassing at the time." The Crown's 5th episode of the season is called The Way Ahead. In 1989, Charles retreats to his room to call Camilla. Her husband answers Charles' call and they make an awkward chit-chat while Camilla abandons the card game to take the call. He wants to run a speech that he's giving at Oxford by her. As he talks, we hear the crackle of radio chatter and the camera leaves Charles' window to swoop across English landscapes, lingering on radio towers and telephone lines. A man in a van, an amateur radio enthusiast, we later learn stumbles upon their conversation and hits record. A few years later, Charles and Diana announce their formal separation. Charles is looking forward. He's part of a task force put together to safeguard the monarchy's survival in a rapidly changing world. Charles argues the monarchy should be less about mystery and magic and divine right, and more about our practical role in today's society. The Queen remarks, "Separation from Diana has liberated him, energized him. The solution we are looking for could be right under our noses." Then Charles finds out the Mirror is going to run a transcript of the phone call, and it's all kinds of icky as we see flashbacks of the call. This begins a discussion on whether or not Charles is fit to be king. Charles decides to do a TV show with journalist Jonathan Dimbleson that people can get to know him and what he truly believes. Does the public want someone who errs but learns from their mistakes, who recognizes the need for change, or someone who is content to keep making the same mistakes and keep things as they are? Meanwhile, Diana attends an event in what came to be known as the revenge dress. Near the end of the episode, we hear from Princess Anne, who says, "For years I doubted Charles, that he wasn't tough enough, strong enough. Look what he's just come through. He's not as weak as everyone thinks. The Charles I saw today was strong." While an extremely entertaining episode, by the end it almost feels like a commercial for 2022's King Charles. Palace Intrigue will be right back. Episode 6 takes us back to 1917. King George V, Queen Mary, and their son are talking about hunting tallies over a meal. They get a letter from the Prime Minister saying that because of the ongoing war, he wishes to bring the Romanovs, cousins to the royal family, to safety in England, but doesn't want to do so without the support of the monarchy. George passes the decision to his wife. We see the Romanovs celebrating word of their rescue, only to be led into a basement and executed by a firing squad in a brutal scene. In the show's present day, Philip is about to head off on a tour to do some carriage driving and will be joined from Penny from a few episodes back. Elizabeth welcomes Boris Yeltsin to the palace for a visit, but before he arrives, an aide informs him that while Yeltsin was a local official in the 1970s, he ordered the demolishment of the Apathy House, an act of disrespect to the murdered Romanov family. During their visit, Yeltsin requests a state visit to Moscow from the Queen, and she leverages this ask to criticize what happened to Apathy House. To her face, Yeltsin assures her he will restore the dignity of her family with a decent burial. In Russian, he is furious that she criticizes him. She should watch what she says, or she'll end up with a bayonet up her ass, too. Anyway, the Queen and Philip head off to Russia in 1994 and have one of their marital squabbles as we revisit the recutting theme of bored Philip. He tells Elizabeth he has to seek companionship elsewhere in his carriage driving group. Who? Why, it's Penny. He refuses to sever the friendship, saying, "I don't want to be asked to give up something when I've done nothing wrong." At the end of the episode, we see John Major give a speech in which he shares a quote from Anna Dostoevsky that the key to a happy marriage, even when there's nothing in common, is to not try to change each other. Point taken. The Today Show spoke with Russell E. Martin, professor of history at Westminster College in Pennsylvania and author of A Bride for the Tsar, Bride Shows and Marriage Politics in Early Modern Russia, to get the scoop about the links between the two dynasties. George's mother Alexandra and Nicholas' mother Dagmar were daughters of King Christian IX of Denmark. Dagmar wed Russian Emperor Alexander III in 1866 and had Nicholas. Alexandra married Edward, Prince of Wales, who became Edward VII in 1863 and had George. George's royal house had actually been the house of the Saxe, Coburg and Gotha, but after 1917 the name was changed to Windsor, when German names were not very popular among the British because of World War I. George V was Queen Victoria's grandson and grandfather to the future Elizabeth II. Did George and Nicholas know each other? In fact, they did and frequently met, says Martin. When they were both young, there were regular vacations spent in Denmark, attended by Dagmar and Alexandra, and their children as well as other relatives. Additionally, said Martin, there were several occasions during the wedding in 1893 where guests approached one or the other to chat, only to discover they were talking to the wrong man. Most people attributed their resemblance to their Danish mothers. And there you have it. If you'd like to email us, our address is thepalaceintrigue@gmail.com. Please follow us on iTunes, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your favorite shows. I'm Mark Francis. My thanks to John McDermott. This is Palace Intrigue and good times.